Hello again, and thank you very much for being here after the first coffee break. So you have just seen the final video for the Preserve project, in which we have summarized a little bit the results obtained, and thank you very much for the interviewee that are also here in this room, and also hello to Lola. We are so sorry that you're not here with us physically in the room, but we know that you are following us, so thank you so much. So the second session is about the innovation roadmap and beyond. So one of the main ideas when the Preserve project was written was not only to focus on the actual research and development of the products, but also to check for the sustainability and circularity of the products and to create a little roadmap, because we already knew that the project would arrive at TRL 6, that is pilot scale. And so at the designing phase of this project, it was thought that maybe it would be important to gather all the knowledge and expertise that the researchers collected during the year to create a little recipe book, let's say, to let other researchers know what it takes to go from TRL 6 to TRL 9, so on industrialization and commercialization. So in this second session, there will be Estela López-Hermoso, EU Project Manager, European Bioplastic. She will present the innovation roadmap. There is a document, and now you will see her detailing all that is included in this document. Then we will have an innovation roadmap table moderated by me. And at this roadmap table, we will have Teresa Calvo, Project Manager at ITENE, and Daniele Spinelli, Project Manager at NTT, and Estela López-Hermoso, Project Manager at European Bioplastics. Then this roadmap table, roundtable, will be followed by another panel with sustainability experts, also from our project. There is Marc Vetterli, that is also a member of our advisory board, Kristina Eißenberger, Scientific Coordinator, Marc Meijers, that is industrial designer, also part of the Preserve project, and Matthias Schrägle, sorry for my German, Vice President at for Research and Development at Südpack. So thank you so much, and Estela, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mara. So, as Mara just explained, we at the Preserve project all together obviously have created this innovation roadmap. This was one of the objectives that we had at the end of the project, a roadmap where we we summarize yet again what have we done at the project. This is a public deliverable. This is already online, and we will be sharing it with you. In which we all collaboratively have worked in presenting this to a varied stakeholder group. Let's say this is aimed at researchers, industrial stakeholders, policymakers. We have presented on one section the innovation that we have achieved, and on another very important section, policy recommendations. So about me a bit. Many of you have been at the European Bioplastics Conference the last days, so you know we are an association representing the bioplastics industry. Right now there's the General Assembly of the association happening in the next room, so I'm here with you, and I'm EU project manager, and at Preserve, the role that we have, of course, it's on the policy. It's kind of our core mission is to advance the interest of the European bioplastics industry in Europe and beyond, and therefore the tasks that we have carried out in the project are on this sense. We have been monitoring and analyzing the policy framework and various aspects. As you can see, this is very wide because we have done a lot of work on different fields. And we have also supported dissemination and communication, because this is then very important, not only analyzing, but also disseminating and exploiting the results to policymakers and to industrial stakeholders. The challenge, this we have presented several times, the challenge we know already, and this was the premise that we had at the very beginning when we started the project. This was written 5 years ago. We have been working in the past 4 years on this. This was where we started the challenge, and then we had a vision, and that's what we have been achieving, and that's what has been presented all today. this was the goal, right? We have explained in detail each of our experts how has this happened in very technical detail. This, of course, the innovation roadmap. As I said, the audience is a bit different and varied, so we have not gone into the full scale of detail that, of course, these presentations, and also some things are confidential, obviously. But these are the innovation highlights. This is, again, the list of everything that has been presented here. These are the main key exploitable results in the jargon of EU projects are called CARES. And these are the ones that we have been working on, the project partners that have presented have been working on. And together with Mara, that she's an innovation exploitation manager of the project, she has been following these CARES very closely, analyzing them, working with the partners to actually understand, first of all, which is the result in simple terms so that we can explain to a broader audience, then what is the innovation breakthrough, and then how to get from the TRL at the end of the project to market. And this is where the roadmap word that makes sense, the roadmap to actually going from TRL 6 to market. So for that, what we have done is kind of a menu of the key exploitable results. As you can see, we have put 3 categories: coatings, upcycling, and end of life, more or less. All of them fit in these categories. And we have a menu of each and every one of them with the description of result, innovation, breakthrough, strategic actions to market, and the TRLs. This will be, this is online, and you can access it now. And in one of my slides, I have the link. So, more relevant for my expertise and my role at the project is then a second part after the menu. It's on policy recommendations, in which, of course, already by drafting all together the strategic actions to market, that's already this interface, this is in between, in which we have, the project partners have identified the challenges that we need to overcome and possibly solutions, or at least some briefly way in which we will have to go. And this is expanded in the policy recommendations section. And we have identified five categories in which we have put forward some policy recommendations: research, development, and innovation, sustainability, and safety. As you can see, they're broad, so that we can include as much as possible in each category. The second one, scalability, industrial integration, and value chain. The third one, on policy and regulatory hurdles. This meaning, so how the policy frameworks have to, or should, or could be, so that this can actually flourish. Then market competitiveness and cost, and lastly, education, awareness, and skill development. Here, I just selected some of them. This is not a full list, because otherwise we will never finish, and that's not the aim of this. And we will actually going to discuss, I'm sure, many of these things during the roundtable and then the panel. That's the reason that we want to have this panel, in which some experts from different profiles can actually discuss this, but also with any of your questions and the questions in Zoom, please. This is meant also to be interactive. In the case of research, development, and innovation, sustainability, and safety, of course, we have already seen how much research and how much innovation has been done in the project, and how much, not how much more needs to be done, but how new projects could actually take these results and continue this, or continue this research. And actually, yesterday I was speaking with someone at the European Bioplastics Conference, a policy officer at the European Commission of the Research Director General, and she was actually asking me, what are you going to do with everything that you've done in Preserve? What's happening now? Where are you taking it? So, are you continuing already? Do you have a plan to continue exactly from where you're stopping? Are you going to, because dropping the pen, that cannot be, right? And of course, that's not happening, because every expert here that has worked in this project continues their own research and innovation agenda in this realm, in one way or another, in one project or another. But defining focused actionable research objectives and in EU calls for the Horizon and the CBE, the CBE, it's crucial, right? So, and this is actually important to have a conversation early on with policymakers, with the European Commission, the ones who draft the calls with the big and with the CBE to actually align the objectives and the actionable research objectives that could be done. Then, of course, expand R&D efforts to include comprehensive LCA, LCC, and sustainable and safe by design, and support innovation in recycling technologies and infrastructure. This is something that has been, that is really buzzy, let's say, in the last, for a couple of years now. The second category is scalability, industrial integration, and value chain. No surprise for anyone. This category, we have, again, this is only a selection. There are more recommendations that you will be able to read in the innovation roadmap. Scaling circular systems, strengthening partnership with suppliers, and invest in developing bio-based supply chains, and secure the supply chain of organic raw materials and of the quality. Anna has, or some of you with the take-home messages that many of you have said, have already give some hints of why is this really important and necessary, obviously. So this is, of course, a big take-home message in this innovation roadmap. Then on policy and regulatory hurdles, which is more my turf, well, it has been already mentioned as well, and of course, I think everyone knows about the packaging waste regulation. This is not the only policy framework that has something to do with the work that we do on bio-based packaging or biodegradable materials as well, but there's an obvious need to harmonize policy frameworks. There is now going to be a lot of work done on the secondary legislation coming from the PPWR on design for recyclability, recycling criteria. There is a lot to be done on the secondary legislation that it's very paramount that everyone from all the stakeholders that have a stake here that actually search the way of how to bring your expertise, so researchers, industrial stakeholders from all parts of the value chain, to bring your expertise and your experience and the research that is being done, so that actually this secondary legislation is also aligned with what it's possible, and that innovation is not stifled, because this is a risk. So involving regulatory bodies, but also being involved with regulatory bodies early on is very important, and also standards. We have seen, for example, Stephen had on the industrial combustible anaerobic digestion, there's more work that needs to be done. There's work that is being done and standards that are missing or that can be put in place, but also a harmonization of the ones that are existing and a refreshment of the one that exists is also pretty crucial for the innovation to actually move forward. Then market competitiveness and cost. This is kind of more straightforward, right? Financial and policy incentives for bio-based packaging. Of course, here there's only one line. I invite you to read again the roadmap, because it's not here. It's just easy to say, but there's more detail on the innovation roadmap. We've seen that, of course, the issues that are on scalability or on the supply of raw materials. This increases the cost. I mean, all this in the end makes the cost really high, and without some incentives on the policy side and also financial incentives, this is difficult to overcome at this stage. Facilitating the development of logistics and management frameworks and leverage on alternative feedstocks. Again, this is only a selection of what we recommend. And last but not least, because this is very important at the end, is actually public awareness campaigns and harmonized labeling schemes and updating the educational curriculum and investing in educational campaigns. This is something that is a bit more marginal to what we have done in Preserve, but this is the next step. That is the next step, but it has to be already done, because otherwise, well, what we're doing now would not be then. I don't want to be. I don't want to to treat us as, because we're all citizens, as dumb, but, well, we need to know, we need to be informed, we need to know how to actually dispose things, where, etc. And there's much more work to be done here. And for whatever comes next, the innovation that we're doing, then this knowledge should be already there, because otherwise, well, it will never happen anyway. You can create very nice things, but then if they're not disposed correctly, well, it's not going to go well. So these are the recommendations. And the path forward, of course, it's that. What is the path forward for us? Well, foster the adoption of bio-based materials, or bioplastics in our case, European bioplastic, of course, and achieve the market readiness with the scalability and the cost efficiency. This is the take-home messages that every one of the presentations has said is the path forward, obviously, and. The easy catchphrase, accelerate the transition to a circular economy, but this is the goal, right? And with this is the link. You will have the presentation, therefore the link is there. But if you go already to, I don't know if you know, Zenodo is this platform in which you can find all the all our public reports, deliverables, etc. And you can check already there in our community this and other things, like, for example, the white paper that is there on upcycling food and drink packaging. This was published actually in October, and many of the recommendations are already there. We have expanded this in the roadmap, but some of them, because this paper is done with other projects, some of those recommendations are not that fitted to preserve, so were removed, but you can already take a look at that. That is also in Zenodo. And with this, I'm done. I'm not sure how much time I used, but this was the introduction for the roundtable. And now, if you can come, everyone.
Lala? Okay. Don't be shy. So now we have a roundtable with Estela. You already know her, European Project Manager at European Bioplastics, Teresa Calvo, Project Manager at ITENE, and Daniele, Project Manager at Next Technology Tecnotessili. I will sit down now, don't worry. I will just introduce the roundtable. Also, thank you very much again to Estela for organizing this meeting, and also to European Bioplastics for hosting us and for being such an active member of our project, because, as I said before, the Preserve project included the whole value chain. You can see there in our roll-up very summarized scheme of what happened at Preserve, and that not includes all that we will discuss right now, that is the policy, the circularity, and LCA assessment. So thank you very much again to European Bioplastics. And also another things you see there are our demonstrators again, but we are really proud of having the demonstrators here. I don't know if you're familiar with European research projects, but actually having 10 demonstrators developed in less than 4 years is a really huge accomplishment that can be only achieved thanks to the strong collaboration that we experience between the different partners of the project. So thank you again very much. So, to start, don't worry, you already know the answer. You have been working a lot on the Preserve project. So I will start with a first question to Estela and Teresa. That is, what are the most critical challenges that are included also in the innovation roadmap that in scaling up the innovations?
It's okay. Well, I think we saw some of them in the first part of the event this morning. For me, I think there are three main points important in that. One of them is the availability and the minimum quantity of the new materials required for all the processes. I mean, the typical ones in the converting materials of packaging materials, such as extrusion, injection, or even printing and lamination. This is a very important point. Another thing is when we have this enough quantity and we go to for example, packing machines, we need also machinability requirements in terms of how they run, how they are handling in all of these processes, all the conditions in each process where the material have to be resistant, and also is very important. And last but not least, is other important very thing is try to find the optimal balance between the cost and the efficiency of the processes regarding and against the benefit of to have a new material. So for me, I think it is
Thank you, Teresa.
the main points.
Yeah, thanks. I'm going to repeat a bit myself because I already said some things there, and I'm looking at Anna and Matthias, who surely can answer this question much better. And if you want to add anything, please go ahead. What has been identified, and this probably was Anna actually identifying it at the innovation roadmap, is of course, we said already, the limited availability of raw materials that already, of course, increases costs. Also, one of the take-home messages that Anna shared in her presentation is that there needs to invest in machinery as well, right? That now it's treating conventional plastics, but then you need some investment to actually make it adequate or efficient, right? So there's need for investment, and of course I can only imagine that you would only make investments if there is a prospect of return. If you know that this policy framework that is ever evolving is actually not going to then make a stop to your, so your investment has to be somehow safe, and this is now probably at the time with bioplastics is not the most, it's a bit uncertain in some aspects. That I think that they're more and more clarified because we know already at least, okay, this is the framework, maybe not the ideal for everyone in this sector, but it is what it is, and then at least you have the certainty of what these are the realms in which we're moving. So yeah, about the availability of bio-based raw materials and of course the high price, and also the limited infrastructure. Maybe this is something that is also important, is about then the collecting and sorting and recycling of the bio-based materials, and of course this is still, and this is a discussion which at the European Bioplastics we have a lot motion going on about the need to make this more efficient, but there are many projects actually they are working on this, and there's a lot of work being done on this. So I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay, thank you so much, Estela. So now I will ask to Teresa and Daniele, as experts in circularity assessment, LCA, RCC, social LCA, all the assessment, Daniele. So which are the trends in the industry regarding the technologies that have been developed in Preserve and in the research market in general?
So, okay. So just to say that LCA and also the other tools that has been implemented and using the data from the project are decision-making tools. So it means that this tool will be used more frequently in the future for the design of the new products. So new products need to be more sustainable, but from different point of view, from the environmental, social, and economic. So it means that all this information will feed so what we are calling environmental product declaration. So it means to define standards from the products. And another important aspect is the eco-design of the products. So this approach needs to design the products of the future that should be designed for recycling or upcycling. Because as you know, it's not only the problem of packaging, but it's also a problem for other industrial sectors in Europe. But we need to have this transition in our mind.
Thank you, Daniele. Teresa?
When we are talking about trends, well, I think from the point of view of the new structures of packaging materials, we found two different ones. One of them is go to a less complex structures, more in terms of monomaterial structures, and also at the end to give a more homogeneous waste stream in order to manage properly. And one of the other things is regarding reduce the content of the plastic at the end. For pursuing that, we have different things. We try to reduce the thickness of the materials as the first step, but if not, we can add different other alternative materials to reduce this plastic content. For example, to perform hybrid extractors with paper, or in the cases that it could be possible to develop fully paper-based solutions, where also functional coatings of, for example, the whey protein that we saw from Preserve could be very useful because of that, in order to reach the enough barriers for that. And obviously, in all these trends, also is designed for the circularity, as Daniele explains, also in combination with all the circularity assessment with other methodologies, such as the methodology followed by us, by Carla, in Preserve. So, well, it's a combination of all of that, yeah.
Thank you, Teresa. So 2 main themes actually come out. That is trying to lower the cost and have technology that not only are for creating the polymers that are needed for the food packaging, but also and bio-based packaging in general, but decision-making tools, and making all the value chain aware that we are in a journey that needs us to think more circular. And also, I think that the innovation here in Presolve is also that we are recycling bioplastics. That is something that is still ongoing, the discussion, and also it's limited by the fact that the sorting of bioplastics is very difficult at the moment, because the composting facilities and the recycling facilities are not actually designed for identifying the bioplastics at the moment. So it is something that is still a little bit difficult, but we can push so that the research in that area can go and can move forward. So as regards also these things that we need to overcome. So Estela, what are the key policy actions that are needed to enable the market adoption of all those technologies?
Well, I don't want to repeat myself what I said before, but I have to. But I want to start actually with saying there are right now over 10 or 12 different strategies, initiatives, regulations, and another dozen proposals that might be related to affect the innovations done at Preserve. So complex is this framework in which we're moving. So first of all, we need to find a harmonization of that. But if we go, actually I'm going to go in a different direction. What do we need to do? The policies actually that are at EU level, done at EU level, if you have some knowledge of how the institutional, how this process is done, it's the European Commission is the one drafting all these proposals and initiatives and so on. The European Commission is this executive body, but and when you speak with all the policy officers that are the ones writing it, they say, well, we do what we're told, obviously, because they're an executive body. They're not the brain. The brain are member states. So what do we need to do in the first place? Well, maybe vote for parties in your member states that actually have views on this that are aligned with, that would be the first step. So that it's more of a, this is not a policy action, it's a political action, but it's actually, it's inextricable. I mean, this is how it is. So if in Brussels you have several directorate generals, one on climate, one on environment, one on growth market, one on research, they need to align with each other. And then you have several commissioners from different member states. If there are, it's a political tendency that actually that it's not an issue and fossil is great and we don't care about you know, sustainability and the circular economy, then that's not going to be written in Brussels, even if they push a lot. Because sometimes they are frustrated as well. They say, well, yeah, but I cannot just go and write whatever I want. It doesn't work. So harmonization gets, it's from bottom up. We need to then be aware of our political scenario. Within those frameworks, then, of course, with the regulations that are being written, the proposals, what we need is absolutely to get engaged. there are many platforms. There are associations like mine, multiple umbrella organizations in Brussels, and there are many stakeholder events, and the Commission engage in stakeholder workshops with different stakeholders. And I invite you to, if you have time, I know that everyone seems to be understaffed these days, but to actually get engaged in bigger platforms so that your voice is heard. So as policy actions get, then what we could possibly ask then the legislators is to harmonize, to try to streamline and make it easier, and actually please cross-check between the different services, because then we have there are regulations that contradict each other. So already this is a nightmare sometimes, and then they're also having the European Union the same goals. I'm very long, but having the European Union the same goals, the Green Deal, etc. That now everything is going to be renewed with the new European Commission, but then you have policies and initiatives that, as I said, contradict each other and that stifle innovation. So we want to protect our environment, but we protect our environment, but then stifle innovation on potential solutions that actually will help the environment, but they're not safe yet. So we're going to stop it, and there is a little margin here. But what I would always really highlight is get engaged, harmonize regulations, harmonize standards as well. Those are the 3 pillars that need to be tackled.
Thanks, Estela.
Too long.
Now, as you can see, we are all really passionate about this topic, so we could talk for hours, maybe in the afternoon. Because in the afternoon we will have a session with our related projects, so other projects, European-funded projects that are working on sustainable solutions for circularity in plastics. So we will have time also to discuss with them. And also thanks, Estela, for underlining the importance of the link that exists, but is not really strong, between science, policy, and citizens. Because we see, unfortunately, that sometimes the policy does not align with science. So policy can move really faster than science, and they are not patient enough to actually see the results, and so they legislate against some things, and it's like, no. So actually, it was not one of the objectives of the PRISA project to actually engage in this circle between science, policy, and citizens, but there are many other projects and many initiatives that are working towards this. And I would ask to Daniele, because also one of the things is that, of course, the innovation we need to know if they are actual better solution than the previous one. So how does the life cycle assessment influence the research and innovation, and validate or not the sustainability claims of the innovations?
As said before, LCA could support the new innovation of the future. Mainly, there are now several studies that we are also performing, not only for the project, but also for the companies, in which we are doing LCA before to put the product on the market. So it's really a challenge, because now companies want to say, what is the environmental footprint of my products? So also this is really a challenge, and also is not involving not only bio-based materials for packaging, but also other different sectors. I would like to mention that LCA is also guiding the products of the future. Also thinking to include the recycled material, and also another important point, to define the environmental product declaration. So it means that we need to have standards, as also Estela mentioned before. Other key aspect, in my opinion, for which LCA is supporting this transition is related also to support an education. Because education also starts from the end user. All of us, we are end user of packaging material. So we need to know, and to know we need to have an important point to be taken into account. We need to know, we need as end user to request from the market, from the companies, products that are more sustainable, that are coming not only from bio-based material, but also using a recycled material. But this pass through our everyday life. So I can say this is so entities also mainly involved in textile sector. I say that for textile, but I can say also for other industries, also packaging. And another important point, we need to guide also the future investments and also try to push international collaboration. That is really a challenge to have more sustainable products on the market, because all of us alone, we don't know nothing, so we make better together.
Thank you, Daniele. And Teresa, what is the, how does the circularity assessment help in the innovation? Well, the same question, but I don't know, I think our audience knows the difference between LCA, LCC, and circularity assessment. So, Teresa.
Well, I will go to summarize some part of the content from my colleague Carla, because, well, she explained that. Specifically, the circularity assessment, well, is based on 3 main points: the design out waste and pollution, also design for reusing, repairing, and recycling the new products, and also to regenerate the natural systems. So specifically during Preserve, we quantify that following the material circularity indicator developed by Ellen MacArthur Foundation. And we could quantify from 0 to 1 the different new demonstrators, comparing the benchmark ones. And what is a way to evidence that there could be methodologies, objective methodologies, to allow companies to design for circularity from the beginning. Some part of the content that also Daniele said that is very important from the beginning of launching a new product or thinking of a new structure, to think regarding all circularity and all life cycle assessment of these new products. So, well, the idea is to combine both methodologies in order to justify the new circular approach of the products, and even it would help also avoid companies to fall in the greenwashing things that nowadays is also everybody is trying to avoid, in order to, well, to don't say wrong information or wrong ideas of the new products. So, well.
Thank you, Teresa. Also, something that I wanted to add is that in the Preserve project, we also took into account the non-intentional added substances, that it's something that is coming up in these days. So actually, all the prototypes are undergoing these tests because it's very important, as you said, from the beginning to start thinking about materials that are safe and sustainable by design, that it's something that it's not actually at the moment in force. It's a voluntary, if I'm not wrong, framework that companies can take. And so I would love that the Commission push to make safe and sustainable by design compulsory, because it's something that is very important, and we are lucky here in the European Union to be aware of that. So, and being aware of that and all of those things that come up, there is also, and this is my last question for all of you, about social perception, because that's an interesting point. So before we saw some results from the social perception service. So Daniele, what is your take on social perception? What do you think?
So I think that there are different points of view. So the point of view of the companies, the point of view of the end user, that are all of us. So sure, when we are thinking of two companies, okay, company's perspective is mainly oriented to the manufacturing step. For sure, companies want products that could be, in terms of bio-based materials, quite competitive with the fossil-based one. And we can say that this is really a challenge, because in terms of the cost of raw materials, and also probably the use of recycled materials most of the time is also really a challenge. You can imagine when we are using bio-based material instead of fossil-based. But sure, company want a bio-based material that could be able to be manufactured with the current technologies, because no company want to change the manufacturing value chain. So this is also a point to be taken into account. The second point is the properties of a material. For sure, I think that for bio-based material, we need to continue testing because this material needs to be improved to reach the market needs that all of us we want. And there are still good development, and I think that also Preserve project has provided really good results in this direction. And so for the third point is the availability of materials. So company can invest in new products, manufacturing, if they have a raw material available in Europe. This is a really important point. Not only, okay, the cost is an important point, but also the availability in Europe of a feedstock of the raw materials. So for social perspective, from the end user part, I can say that now in the last year, something is changing. So people want to test more sustainable products that are coming from recycled material, and also they are willing to pay also a little bit higher price. I can say a little bit because probably if you have a more higher price around 10% could be quite acceptable. Or sure, if you need to pay a lot, something, so we are also, so in our world different, so we have wars, we have several things. We have also economic crisis, that is true. So, but the young generation are quite happy to go in this direction of more sustainable products. And we are also having a look on the label of the products. I'm also referring to textiles. So some years ago, people see in the label, okay, with recycled wool, recycled polyester, what is inside? So really now people are having a look, okay, I prefer a recycled material for my t-shirt or so on. So something is moving.
Thank you, Daniele. So one last question to Teresa and Estela. Just Teresa.
Yeah. Well, it's something similar or in the line that Daniele said. I think there are quite difference between people involved in the industry and end users. But I think that one of the main important things is to give clear and transparent information and also verify information of the different new solutions. Because sometimes people think that, for example, a paper-based packaging is the best option in a specific application, but maybe if we consider energy or water consumptions is not the best option. In case of plastics, the same. So, well, I think the communication campaigns in order to be aware of the people of pros and cons of each part and to how to identify the best options for every application is very important. Maybe also, as I mentioned before, all the avoid the greenwashing, and I think it's upcoming a new regulation about that, if I'm not wrong. So I think all the things will help us to verify better the new upcoming solutions for packaging.
Thank you, Teresa. Estela?
I continue with the line that Teresa was saying and what Daniela was said. So cost is very important, obviously. Let's not deny it. But if the knowledge that we have as end users, citizens, now I'm speaking about citizens that actually are going to consume this packaging. If the knowledge is insufficient, let's say, and if we invest in educational campaigns and so, the consumer perception will change, probably. But in any case, obviously, this has to be any type of information that is in packaging has to be based on reliable, certified information. And in any case, we live in Europe, free or at least not that free of movement anymore as it used to be, but free of movement, free of right. I mean, this is free of goods and people borders. But we have in each country a totally different system of collecting, sorting, labeling, different colors for the waste, and in some countries you have like what to do in the package. You said what to do, in others what not to do. The logos are different. Some are logos that are not based in any certification scheme, and in that certification scheme in no standard. There needs to be a whole harmonization on the labeling that needs to happen, so that actually it's not that difficult. Then you don't need so much money on educational campaigns. It's just very straightforward. You have a logo on a packaging, you have a logo on a bin, everything is of the same color, and you throw it.
And for fossil fuels, when you go to put petrol in your car, that happened because now you have the same label. But yeah, so thank you. And just to add a little bit, and now we will open the discussion to the public. If you want to make some question, we have 5 minutes. Just a little note on the communication. That is something that always comes up when we discuss about the future of bio-based packaging, and actually communication is my field. And the problem here is that we have really complex ideas and strategies behind. So the problem when communicating complex concepts is that it's difficult for people to understand it straightly. So for this reason, sometimes it's easier to have ideas that are not the actual things. So I think about recycling, that older people in Spain always think that everything goes in the same bin at the landfill, and it's not like that. I mean, you know that it's not like that. So we need to invest more in communication campaigns so that not only young people, because young people now are really aware of the problems that we are facing with all the climate change, but also older people, to make them know that it's not that difficult to separate the waste. It takes a little bit more space, but at least what I say to my in-laws is that they take the trash out less. So instead of once a day, it's once a week. So for me, it's a bonus point. And then we need to invest a lot more on, as I said before, the link between science and policy and citizens, because without a policy that is based on science, we cannot communicate anything that is real to the citizens. So I hope that in the future it will be easier also for scientists to come up to actual experts in communication and policy and to engage together so that we can deliver fact-based policies and recommendation to everyone, so that we can actually have an impact on our future environment. So, are there any questions from the audience? Aldo? Nobody. You are shy today? Okay. So if you don't have any question, I mean, we will be here until. Yeah.
I have one question. Outside Preserve, do you think, how do you see, how is your experience with, let's call it big names in the industry? Are they really interested, I mean, at the policy level as well as the circularity studies, predictions, to take this road, to really make a change on that?
You mean brand owners?
Yes, correct. I mean,
yes.
Things that could have a short-term impact in reality, I mean, in everyone's life.
I mean, I don't know if we have any brown, I mean, I know we have some brown owners here, I'm looking at, but I know, yes, I have heard and I have discussed with not brand owners. Obviously, I'm not speaking to the CEO. This is not something that happens or they even know. But I have we have more and more contact with the research departments and innovation departments at brand owners. Not packaging, food and drinks packaging, which it might be a bit more complicated now, but a cosmetic. And they are really interested actually in knowing obviously what's happening in policy, but they all have their public affairs departments. The big brand owners, they know what's happening, they know, and they do their own lobbying. This they do. But the research and innovation departments, they are at the same time having a close look now at what projects like ours are doing, because they want to understand what is feasible now and what it might be feasible in also strategic actions to market. Okay, what are those? Where are they? What is needed to go there? Shall we invest there? So this is happening. Yes, I'm not gonna give names. Cosmetic big, we all know. High end, medium. Yeah.
There is one in our consortium.
Yeah, and no, I'm not meaning. I don't mean ITENE. I mean really big.
And actually, to add to your question, Aldo, we have been lucky to have been working with brand owners, Danone, Ferrero, and ITENE. So thank you so much for being part of this project, because actually that helped a lot in preparing all the prototypes that are there and try them for the actual application, because it is different, a very different process from trying in the lab to prepare something that is just a proof of concept and then going to the actual brand owner and following their requests. So it has been a journey altogether. I repeat myself again, but this project has been working a lot in a collaboration and demonstrated a lot that collaboration between all the value chain and specifically to the end with the end users has been something that proved to be successful.
I want to add something that without giving names, I'm not giving names, but what it's of huge interest is to understand and that's what in the policy recommendations I've highlighted, what is the state and what is the prospect on sorting and sorting bioplastics, sorting, collecting, sorting and recycling, and that is where it's really now the attention it's really high there. So okay, what is feasible, but you know, for parts of cosmetic packaging to really make a shift, and they want to understand, okay, is this going to be feasible in 5-10 years?
Price and volumes.
Yeah, of course.
It's also about price and volumes.
So about these things we can also discuss in the following round panel. Thank you so much. I think we also had ideas, because maybe, Estela, we can start a podcast together called the Bio-Based Packaging Revolution, because we have a lot to say, actually. So thank you so much for the panelists today. And I will call right now the roundtable experts. So we have Marc Vetterli. So please come here. I will also move the chair meanwhile. We have Kristina Eißenberger from ASU. You also saw her. She is our scientific coordinator. So she did a wonderful job coordinating all the innovation and technologies that were created in the project. I will sit here, so you can sit over there. And then we will have also Marc Meijers from DenimX. Marc, please. So Marc is an industrial designer and upcycle expert. So Marc is one of the also people involved in the final design of the packaging solution, well, the packaging solution from secondary raw materials from the Preserve project, and Matthias Schrägle, the Vice President for Research and Development for Südpack. So while Matthias takes the chair, I will again go here and show you our beautiful demonstrator, because actually Marc worked a lot with our researchers and he developed this demonstrator. Maybe I can also take the time to explain a little bit more what we have here. I know that you already look at them. So this demonstrator, it is a carrier box and it is made of recycled denim and recycled PLA, also with the possibility of being coated. And Marc will explain it better, but this is also a wonderful solution for the brand owners to reuse the material that they are already on the market and reuse for marketing purposes. So maybe, Marc, we will discuss it later a little bit. So thank you so much for being here. And I will start with a general question. So research project as Preserve can be transformative. So what is your take on this, and how can research project help in the future of bio-based packaging? And this is a question for all of you.
So for me, the most important take-home message for what you did here at Preserve is really like taking into account the entirety of the product life cycle. Like really the whole value chain has been taken into account, and making sure that actually every single decision is actually based on facts that are not just like financials, as always, but also socially accepted. I mean, through the SLCA and the LCA, you also like add the social and the environmental aspect to each and every step of the development, so to say. So that is really great. What you have developed and showed here is extremely valuable, because it really generates other ideas that companies can like jump on, so to say. So in this sense, showing that it is feasible, and to replicate it is actually, it takes some efforts, but at the same time, if you don't start now, it might be too late.
Thank you, Marc. So, Marc?
Yeah, I think the greatest achievement of this project was creating awareness. Since we're all talking about becoming more sustainable, and society isn't waiting that much for technical solutions, but is waiting for products that live up to the requirements that we have within society, which are not low, but then on a sustainable basis. And I think we've showed that on the technological level, this is feasible. And there has to be this transition towards real applications where it works for the end user. And they're not, at this moment, willing to lower their demands and desires. So that's where we have to find some way where it comes together. And I think this was a great project where the whole value chain was represented and working towards that goal.
Thank you, Marc. Kristina?
Yeah, I would also say that having like the whole value chain somewhat, to some extent, represented in a project helps a lot actually to develop holistic concepts, because otherwise you end up with one idea and you prove it maybe for one potential product. But often projects end after you use the packaging and will not really consider innovative end-of-life options. They will often stick to what is in place now. And I think we need to go beyond that. And I think Preserve has shown that there are options actually. And also together with like big brand owners and also with our consumer studies, I think we could paint a more holistic picture on what could be the future of bioplastics and how to implement bioplastics on the market. I mean, we're still not there. There's still a lot road to go, but it's a start, and I think it's a very holistic start to paint a bigger picture.
Thank you, Kristina. Matthias?
From my point of view, in this project, for us, very interesting was to be a part in the scale-up. In many projects which I had in the past from different areas, they stopped at a certain level and they missed the scale-up. And if you do not take a look to the scalability of new ideas, then maybe you forget that, as we discussed already, that the commercialability of a product, everything is about price, has to be taken into account. And here it was brilliant to see, and we really talking about here an R&D approach, which is a pure explore area, which takes a certain time. It's not the exploit where we talk about 1-2 years. And in those 4 or 5 years, what was made by the team, amazing to see from lab scale, from first ideas in 2-3 gram volumes we are talking about here. And if I give you a picture of our industry where Südpack is working, one extruder, for example, has a consumption of 1 ton plastic material per hour, or 600 kilogram per hour. It's a standard machine. And really to scale it up and the volumes which Anna showed, this is really something where I got a feeling this materials or this technology where we have taken a look to, I can judge for my own much better to give or to have a certain feeling, yeah, we can follow up on them or not. And here, many ideas, especially the beautiness of the project was with the holistic concept of the circularity of the closed loop. Many, many good ideas came up and will be followed up.
Thank you so much. So actually now for Kristina, a question, because you were actually in the first phase of the project working a lot about the polymers and materials to be developed, and what still needs to be done to achieve the industrial scale and commercializability?
Well, yeah, it depends a bit on the material, on the specific material. So for the whey, for instance, it's to really reach the market. I mean, Anna showed the difficulties in scaling up the coating formulation. I think there is still room for improvement to, I don't know, maybe prolong the shelf life or find another way of applying it so it will be more easy to actually implement it in large scale. For other polymers, we started from scratch with the PHA. I know Aimplus did a lot of extrusion trials, and also Santex really had a lot of tests going on. And I think here it's the availability at the moment, or also the, let's say, the reliability of availability. So we had, for instance, our colleagues were working with one grade, and it was okay, was very promising, and when they tried to reorder, yeah, no, it's not produced anymore. And I think that can be a drawback when you start with something in this young industry where not everything is really, reliable in terms of availability. And I think that's also something that can, that needs to be overcome, or you need to find different solutions to be more flexible. But yeah, that's probably also one of the problems that need more investigations or to follow up to really be able to implement it.
Yeah, thank you, Kristina, for your answer. Actually, in the previous roundtable discussion, it was mentioned the importance of raw materials and the feedstock, and the importance of having it in the European Union as well, not only for sustainability reason, but because it's faster, actually, and the logistics can be cheaper. So now a question for Marc from the advisory board. From an engineering point of view, and also seeing the results from the PRESERVE project, which are the breakthrough, in your opinion, that could drive the change?
Once again, is as said before, it's really to show that when you understand something, you can truly use it to its best advantage. To really go deep into the material itself, making sure that you take its advantages and turn them into something useful. Thinking outside of the box. I mean, at the beginning of the project, you were trying to replicate something that is actually done using fossil fuels, sorry. And then it didn't really work one-to-one, right? So it forces really the people in the lab to think outside of the box and like to take those disadvantages and turn them into advantages. And from an engineering perspective, this is extremely important because why have a one-to-one solution? Why can't you actually be able to be a bit creative? Because circularity is just about that, making sure that actually you take the best of all the materials that you put in and get out. So this all together, it's again this holistic approach of how to solve problems that is extremely well done and well implemented. Because I mean, at the same time, you think about how long the fossil fuels and fossil-based plastics, so to say, have been improved. What the companies have been using over decades, optimizing and optimizing, and what they have now and what you do within 4 years, it's really spectacular. But it takes even more in order to fulfill all the engineering requirements and making sure that the requirements we put up front are also the correct ones.
Thank you so much for your answer. And you raised a really good point, actually, that we always think about we are late about bioplastics, but actually we are not that late because the research started around 15, 20 years ago, and the research on fossil-based materials started more than 1 century ago, and there are a lot of investments in that sector.
And just think about the amount of money that has been invested in plastics coming from fossil fuels, and the amount of money that has been invested nowadays in bioplastics. So
that's correct.
That's great.
And also, I wanted to say we are not against fossil-based plastics, actually, because there are some applications that are, at the moment, it's not possible to use bio-based plastics. But what we are trying to do is where the application with bioplastics are possible, such as food packaging or cosmetic packaging, for example, we need, and thinking about bio-based applications, so I want to ask Marc from DenimX. So you have worked extensively with secondary raw materials. It is actually, no, it's not here, the scheme, it's over there. We work with primary materials, that is PHA, PLA, also PE, PET, but you worked with recycled materials. So you work normally with recycled denim, you work with recycled PLA. So how do you see Preserve fitting in the future, and what about the future of the secondary raw materials?
Yeah, we're at the at the early stage of exchanging those materials that we know of, that were merely fossil-based, in exchanging them for let's say more sustainable alternatives. But we're only glancing at them. We're just experimenting, and that's what has been happening here too. But I think we need to move forward much faster. But actual prices are killing us. I live in the Netherlands. Recently, a number of recyclers went bankrupt, plastic recyclers, and it's not specifically for my country, but it's happening all over Europe due to low prices of virgin materials and also some, let's say struggles, complexity of things. And we have to work on them, but there are two sides to that story. One is regulation can help a lot, also from EU point of view. Let's say put a tax on materials that hurt and damage our environment. And secondly, on the user side, so the demand side, we should work on more awareness that we can make those materials function and compete with virgin ones. And as you mentioned before, like a car, it's a collection of engineered plastics. If you imagine just for one small piece, it has been developed over the years to do exactly only that, what is asked in a car, but it's, let's say, commercial feasible because it goes about 1 million pieces. Yeah? And there is still this large challenge, but I think we're making progress. So let's move forward, and let's move forward fast.
Thank you, Marc. So now, thinking about moving forward, I would ask Matthias about the challenges you faced in the scaling up, and not only in the Preserve solution, but in general, that you face with bio-based plastics and bio-based materials.
Yeah. So, of course, there was a certain, I would say, I will not say problem, but we had a certain learning curve in producing or consuming these materials with our machines. So, a few examples. For example, when we used the whey protein coating, we tried to bring it on the machine, and then we are talking about different volumes what such a machine needs. And we had the difficulties to mix it in the right way because we used existing, thinking always coming from existing technology. We used the existing mixers, and we failed. We tried it out here, and there we have to develop also around the machine, the surrounding of a machine, to make it possible to convert those materials. It is possible, but so I would not say here with this experience it cannot be produced in the future. For sure this can be produced, and we will find the right solution for that. It's not that tricky, it's not rocket science. But for all the biopolymer materials, especially when it comes to extrusion, blown film or cast film, the extruder, they are designed for polypropylene, for polyester, and for other materials. Now, if you feed in materials which are maybe just 80% similar to, you will get problems as of the extruder screw, for example. They have a different sharing. So you have to do our utmost best to adapt it. And here the beautiness is that we have different machines with different screws where we have a lot of knowledge, but the knowledge what we have is just by doing it. And you cannot expect to buy a material which is new in the market, feed it into the extruder and switch on the machine and you will get out perfect material. You need to do your utmost best, and this is just out from the knowledge what you have gained over the time. And if you have the right persons on the machine with the right skills, and for example, a mechanical engineer, they can tell you, look, if we, for example, make a new feed block, we make new streams, here's the problem, we can solve in that way. You always have to think in problem solving, and then you can get it done. And this is our experience, what we made with bio-based materials in extrusion. They are convertible in cast and blown, but you have to help them a little bit, let me say it that way.
Thank you so much. Actually, that is a very important point, and that also came up before about trying to prepare materials that can be fed into already existing machine and obtaining a product that does not need anything else, and that is something very difficult. So, Kristina, now a question for you. So Estela presented before the innovation roadmap. So from results from projects such as the Preserve, how can there be a legacy, and from the researcher point of view, how can this research project help in the future and also help to link the research part in the lab and then university with the industrial part?
I think that the results show some gaps. Of course, you will always have that with upscaling, but I think we also show like what can be done, and we identified also in the roadmap like certain steps. And I think what is helping is communicating, but also trying out new ideas. So for instance, we tested the whey protein, for instance, for certain applications, but this could of course be expanded to other applications, which would then also broaden the market and also broaden the fields of application, and would also maybe help for really transition into the market, because that's always the problem. You have a research project, you do upscaling, but you miss this last link because it's just not feasible in a research project to really close it. But I think we identified some good points, gave good recommendations on how to close it. I don't remember that for every result, I have to say. But I think that one thing is use these results also in other projects to expand the field of application or the potential field of application.
Thank you so much, Kristina. So now, Marc, a question for you. So as a sustainability expert and engineer, and having seen a little bit the results of the Preserve project and other related projects, well, in your opinion, what still remains to be done, and how might they be all these problems addressed?
So you mean implementation problems or screw extrusion problems?
No, implementation,
okay.
So a broader view.
I mean, there is the customers, there's the manufacturers, there's the policy and regulations. It's a pretty complex thing. Lots of people don't understand what bioplastics are they biodegradable, are they not? And I'm working in a company that makes household appliances, and we still don't implement recycled plastics like PP or PE or such kind of really basics plastic, because actually we want to make sure the appliances work for as long as possible, like 15 years. And all our developers, they fear to make a mistake because they don't understand what are the impact of putting recycled material in the machine, in the part. It means lots of testing. It means lots of making sure that all the specifications are actually good and fulfilled. And it's normally in a producing industry, you don't have time to actually like trial and error. We don't really have time because we need to produce, which is actually a mistake, but at the same time, it's the reality, right? And by really bringing the understanding and like the whole breaking down the complexity of those processes, of those materials to the people developing the products, then it lowers the barrier to entry. And making sure that you can do that, then you can also like lower prices in the long term, being able to recover your own streams, helps you build up the resilience of your supply chains, for example. And just like on the manufacturing level, there are so many things that start with understanding the materials. And if you can bring that to your developers, that is extremely good, because this is where it starts. Then you go to the customers, you explain what you actually have done, and in the end, the customer, what he will say is, as long as it works for me, so it's good. I mean, it's really, they just buy functionality. And by showing that your developers are doing things, it brings also some sympathy, because it's also innovative to understand what you do and how to lower the environmental impact of your machines. But at the same time, some will say, oh, that's a bit too complex for me. And finally, the policy and regulation is the company, they will really do what they have to do. Not many companies have time actually to really go forward and be innovative for the sake of innovation. It really needs actually to bring back the money you invested. And that's pretty tricky. I mean, what is actually really circular, what is really sustainable, how to make sure that the ones in Brussels or in Switzerland, I'm from Switzerland, in Bern, understand what is at stake. And it needs, like this understanding needs to be built up on all of these different levels, because otherwise you might just like shoot in the wrong direction.
Again, a communication problem that we have.
As always.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Marc, for your answer. And I will move to Marc, because I think also there is this interesting point about how the consumers can actually drive the change, because actually this is something that we discussed together, because innovation is something that is driven not only by the fact that we are living in a changing world, and we all experience the climate change effects, but sometimes it is just moved by regulations and the return of investments. So in your experience, and also having worked in the Preserve project, how can consumers can actually change this circularity loop, and what are your suggestions?
Well, within most companies, and we visited a lot of them,
Скрипит весло, штормит гальон, я расчехляю свой гарпун. Летит до Вильнюса болтун, лови его, братва. Видит прицельно враг его, мы порубим на форшмак. Реет пиратский наш флаг и в топку БЧБ. Врагами трюм давно забит, кто не отравлен, тот сидит. Но это больше не бодрит, поймаем Беларусь. Батька хоть не дурачок, смыл от меня все ждали шоу, я даю авиашоу. Враг в тюрьме, а мне зачет, Вова кинь бабла на счет. Вот письмо от Хамаса, позже аж на полчаса. Все вокруг идите на, важно мнение Путина. Прибо от Лукашки в Рашку, я везу бумажки от швейцарского Хамаса. Сам письмо писала раза, пострашнее печенега. Протасевичем Сапега, фу на вас на всех, короче. Полечу я брату в Сочи. Вот берлинский самолет, вас чего-то не скрипет. Вы говно и я говно, вы недавно, я давно. В голове моей война, впереди моя страна. Вова, это мой клондайк, Ник и Майк, поставьте лайк.
the need. A few already understand that works like that. It's the biggest first step.
Not an easy one. So one last question. question for our panelists. I will start with Kristina. Which are the key factors deciding innovation from lab scale to full scale?
One key factor is by the material choice, to try to identify materials that could be scalable, like just by availability. So for instance, whey protein is highly available. You can make sure that you will have a material at the end. If you go for something that is so new that it's not produced on larger scale, you will not be able to reach a scale up because you will not be able to get enough material. So that's one point, to really have a look when deciding for the raw materials, to try identify materials that you can actually buy on the market. Or if you have a partner that can ferment in high volumes, that has a stable process for that. These are the two options I think that you need to consider really before starting the project. What could be my feedstocks? What could be one of the raw materials? I think that's important, and it always helps to have partners involved that actually do scale up, where you can check in between if these formulations or if these materials can make sense to some extent, because we started with the whey protein formulation with Petri dishes, like and the lab coater, and it's a complete different process than for the pilot scale that we did at IVV, for instance, and also again different to the trials at Südpack. So these are the two elements I think that you need to have partners involved that are actually on the scale-up side, that can give you feedback, that you can actually talk about like what is important to make the next steps, but also to choose raw materials that are available in volumes that are interesting for the project. I mean, of course, in an innovation project, you don't necessarily go with the materials that are available in tons, but it doesn't help if you can only get them like 5 kilograms in these 4 years. That's usually not enough.
Thank you, Kristina. Matthias?
So I will answer the question a little different. So to make the selection, which one to scale up, of course, from our side, it's clearly driven by the market, and I will catch your point, what you said. Slightly different, my view is, because as a company, I have to have a future picture of the next 10 years. And if I, as you said, right, if I ask consumer, what do you want to have? It's the same, but just cheaper. So I will earn less money with this theory. So in my theory, I take a look 2 years, 10 years in the future. What will happen in 10 years? In 10 years, the world will be totally different. CO2 will have a tremendous impact on every product we produce. So the first, what I will select, does it have a positive impact on CO2? The second, we know from the legislative point of view, recyclability, recycled content will or is a must. I check it, is this fulfilled by the material? And then I will not in the first round ask my customer, I will ask those persons which influence my customer. Because all of us would like to stay in the same area, in the comfort zone, and to get out of this zone, you get pushed from outside. So now if you identify those persons which are pushing persons to make a decision, and if you know what they think about, and if you transfer it into this new product, does this fulfill, then you are for sure having a product which have a very high market penetration potential in the next 4 to 5 years. Of course, for those materials we are talking about the scalability of the next 5 to 10 years. Therefore, essential to know what will happen in the next 10 years.
Thank you, Matthias. So, Marc, would you like to answer? Oh.
Regarding
Yes.
materials.
Well, what do you think it takes to go from lab scale to industrial? It's a very difficult question, actually.
Well, it is, but it's also interesting. I would say it starts with everyone. Everyone understanding what's at stake and how to each and every of the levels we've been talking about makes the direction that for himself feels right. Because how many of you are in research and how many of you are working in companies? I mean, this is totally different way of looking at things, right? But you all consume things, you all have stuff on you. So it really depends on how you can show the majority of people what is actually good and helps foster the circular economy and making sure that the environmental impact is lowered. Because I mean, it's not just by pushing or pulling that won't work. You need actually to have a critical mass that comes together, and it is really a movement that needs to be actually on all levels. But the infrastructure is actually already here. Some things need to be a bit tweaked and optimized, being by the recyclers or the manufacturers. I mean, we have the knowledge, the possibility to optimize those materials, but I mean, we already have lots of different materials that we could be also reusing, that are actually now discarded, burnt, and so on and so forth. So what I see what Preserve did is to look beyond that, but we still need to have that transition period to optimize what we already have at hand, instead of just burning and waiting for the new solutions to be used, right? It's really a transition that takes everyone and make sure that that we see in which direction we can have the best impact.
Thank you, Marc. So Marc, one last word.
Yes, for the future, I foresee that we need new business models, because that's something that we've not been discussing today, but we've heard the word holistic approach, yes, where people work together for the whole sake of it. I think also this goes for the packaging industry, and we work for different industries too. Maybe you should not consider yourself to be a supplier, but a partner, because you're supplying raw materials that are the starting point for a next development. So you're a partner in the whole development. And once you consider it from that point of view, you would have a different role, but also there's a different stake. And I think in the actual situation that we're in, with the actual economy, you know, and the brand owners are the ones with the most power, because they're at the end of the whole line and they determine the price, and then they keep the most of it for themselves. Sorry if they're in the room here. But we have to reshare, redeal, we have to reconsider how this works, and then also packaging is part of the product instead of an add-on. I think this would help a lot, and this would also require new types of business models where you may not only sell a packaging for a certain price and then say that's it and good luck, but you're part of the material loop, and it gets back to you, and then you have your own resource again available for a next level or a next life cycle. I think this is a different approach.
Thank you very much, Marc. You actually underlined the important things that we tried also to summarize in our project, but it's something that is a change in the minds of all the businesses involved in the packaging, not only packaging actually, because everything nowadays needs to be packed, because there is the transports and logistics sector that is also a really CO2 producer. So. Thank you so much. I don't know if there are any questions from the audience, from Zoom. Yes?
There's one question. Let me see. We had some disruptions in the Zoom chat. I wanted to say everyone in the Zoom, thank you. Sorry, the ones here in person we didn't notice, but apparently we were a bit disrupted by a bunch of people showing videos, and the people in Zoom at some point they could not watch what we were doing, but they had a video playing there about Ukraine or something, I think. So sorry for that. We've created a waiting room and that should be solved. The question, there was one question before all this disruptance, is why is there no mention of replacing PET with PEF?
I can answer. So if you can answer as well. I mean, parentheses, I'm sorry, I'm not neither a researcher, neither a lab. I'm involved in communicating European projects and working on bioplastics. Actually, I study a lot. And actually, there is no reference to PET, to PEF, because preserve is not about PEF, because PEF is another polymer, and here the researchers in the room can correct me if I'm wrong, that is built from furanic acid, I'm not wrong. And in preserve, we work with other polymers. We work with PHA, we work with PLA, we work with recycled PE, recycled PET. So PEF is not mentioned because it was not in the scope of the project. But if you're interested in PEF, I'm working on another project, EU funded, that is called Furious, that is actually producing monomers of PEF for different applications, not only in packaging, but also in the automotive sector. So it's also very interesting. And if you're interested in PEF or in general furanic materials, the research in Europe is moving a lot. So you can actually have a look. There is a page that is called Cordis that here project managers know very well, in which you can look for projects working on the different materials you're interested in. And so that is, PEF is not in the scope of the project, unfortunately. We worked a lot with other materials. Okay.
So it's a bit half-half. It's a bit a remark and it's a bit a question. I heard about technical issues, like upscaling bioplastics. There are technical issues, I wouldn't deny this. But on the other hand, proof of concept, and many of the things that I heard today are proof of concept already. That means it works in the practical. It's not only research and development, so it works. So what I want to say is, like, wouldn't we be more practical to focus on the economical side, on the market logic, than on the technical issues that may be existing, but seem to be, from my impression, not really to be the main hurdle, the main obstacle here we're facing. The main obstacle, I think, is the business model thinking. And another thing is that proof of concept and development, actually, I have the feeling is very much sponsored either by EU, otherwise by the national governments, or even by private companies. So there is no market economy. If you bring it to the market, then it's totally different issue here.
I can answer again, I'm sorry. I'm taking the researcher stage today, but actually that is a good point, and also Kristina can help me on this. We developed prototypes that arrived to TRL6 that actually they are not ready still for the industrialization, because what we did was also to use different materials that are not actually nowadays used in food packaging. So before industrializing and thinking about the economy, that also is something that happened, we need to think to have the perfect or almost perfect product before starting actually investing. But the study on the economic side has also been done in collaboration with all the brand owners. And that is something that is problematic as well, because we have seen that developing this packaging is really costly. So if you have seen the slides before, that maybe a food producer is not investing in our solution at the moment because they are really expensive. So maybe, I don't remember exactly the number, maybe Matteo or Daniele can help me on this, but I remember that for the flow pack packaging, how much was the cost for one package compared to the fossil basic, but it was really a different, big 0.0. Yeah. So we have a difference of almost €1 more or less for each package. Yeah, so, and that is something that we know and we are aware. So what we have done in the second stage of the project is actually to work on the recycled bioplastics, because that is a solution that can be implemented to lower the cost of bioplastics. So here we have Planet Bioplastics and Nicola, who presented before, but also Romei, that is the partner that was engaged in recycling bioplastics. So also we would love not only to have perfect solution at the beginning, but also to try to lower the cost, because that is the most important things. And we are aware of that. And we are trying to look for solutions so that these costs can be lower. And as regards the comment on the push, let's say, I mean, the European Union now is trying to push a lot for innovation and in different sectors. And they are also investing a lot in industrial facilities. There is another preference project who worked in the production of mold pulp bottles with PHA coating, and it's extremely difficult. So it's not only about focusing on the economic part, but also having the most reliable product. As we mentioned before, we have more than a century research in fossil-based plastic, and bioplastic started 20 years ago, so we still miss a little bit. I hope I answered the question, and if anyone else can.
Yes, thank you for that question. Indeed, we need a bit of push from people who have the money, right? But at the same time, in order to make it economically viable, you really need to bring like ecosystems together, right? So that each and every one of the actors has a win-win situation in the deal. And as Kristina said before, starting with a material that a side stream from the dairy industry and making it actually positive and like on the environmental point of view, it really takes each and every one along the value chain to see the potential in that. And that's where actually normally it hurts, and we just go up to the pilot scale and then you don't do the scaling up. And I think Preserve has here the potential to go above that hurdle. But of course, I mean, that's Nachfrage and like Angebot, how do you say that in English? Offer, thank you. It's really about developing ecosystems, in my opinion, in order to be competitive on the price. And I mean, who can be competitive against companies doing millions of tons of materials per year? That is, I mean, pretty challenging, I would say.
Are you already using artificial intelligence for your research or development of the packaging? And how do you think it will influence the sustainable packaging development in the future?
That's an interesting question.
I can just quickly jump on this, because we are, from Meijers, we are, I will say, developing is not entirely developing because it's very difficult. A little tool, as Daniele commented before, can be considered as a very preliminary step of artificial intelligence being adapted to the prediction and therefore recommendations coming out of it for new processing to be adapted or to be implemented by companies. But I have to say it's, as everything, extremely difficult because mainly of the amount and the quality of data we need. In order to have a good prediction, we really need to know how much, how long, when, where, and all the parameters that you can imagine for one single demonstrator. So imagine now 10 in the case of Preserve. It was very ambitious. I mean, of course, we did not fulfill for all of them, but the ones we focus on it, we have a preliminary tool that involves artificial intelligence use, let's say, for adapted, just to validate that it, as you mentioned, it could be used on a good purpose for helping future companies to adapt processes and to make the study if it's convenient for them economically and in terms of sustainability as well.
What about the rest?
I would like to know from...
You would like to have an answer from my side? Of course you could get it. Of course, I take a very close look, especially in the company having an R&D department. You cannot look away from augmented intelligence. There are many programs outside which are calling, with augmented intelligence you can do everything, but it is case by case so difficult. It would be a dream. We have a big database, and I have a wonderful team of coax developer. They know by name 10, 20,000 resins and know the properties. It would be a dream to have a augmented intelligence which would give me, for example, alternative materials directly out from the properties. Startups are working on them. I take a close look to them, and in the next few years, I think they will have an utmost job in the field of R&D of developing new materials, especially when it comes to alternative materials, that you have a foreseeing of materials in alternative materials. And I think there will be in the future materials which we never thought about to be used in such applications.
Yeah, maybe to add on that, there is actually in the field of enzymatic recycling, a lot of research groups use AI to actually design their enzymes to overcome this issue that you do mutations and mutation and to get rid of all this wet lab work. They use a lot of AI to actually model what could be the next potential mutation to stabilize these enzymes, for instance. And there are, in general, a lot of projects going on in the field of artificial intelligence and packaging, or also traceability, for instance. And I know there is one research company in Germany. They actually also do this, but they have to build like the database for every customer again and again, and feed in all the data from all the products that this customer uses to actually use the AI. So there's a lot of things going on, but yeah, it's a case to case, and it's a wide field.
But if I may, a few years ago, the question would have been, can we 3D print those materials? I mean, it's also quite sort of hype. Why don't we just start by reducing and making sure that what we use it as long as possible? I mean, start by educating people and showing that actually there are solutions, a solution that works, that we can already implement and that are already circular. AI is very, it's impressive what they can do. It goes faster and faster, and of course it needs to be taken into account. But there are also easier steps than having a technical solution for a technical problem that will provide new technical problems, in my opinion.
So yes, thank you very much to the panelists, Marc Vetterli, Marc Meijers, Kristina Eißenberger, and Matthias Schrägle. And so thank you again for your time and for this roundtable. And now it's time for a lunch break. Please don't leave us, because at 2 we will start again with some presentation from our related projects. We will have presentation by APET, Uplift, BioRadar, and Bio4Human. So see you again here at 2. And thank you very much again for your attention.